Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.
WisconsinEye is on the campus of Gateway Technical College in Sturtevant. Bob Wittke of R-Racine is a Republican running in the 62nd Assembly District. Bob, welcome to WisconsinEye.
Thank you.
Now, you're president of the R-Racine United School District.
Yeah, R-Racine Unified School District. I'm in the last year of my term,
Right.
second year as president.
This state budget did have a significant increase in state aid to K-12 schools.
Yes.
Was it enough, or is there another big increase needed in the next budget?
Well, I think what people tend to focus on is the amount of money and not how we're spending it and the results that we're getting. We have roughly a $300 million budget at Racine Unified, and we spend a great deal of time going over how we spend that money and then the results that we get. We are extremely focused on making sure that we are investing in things that will build, I commonly term it as build the workforce of the future. Mm-hmm. And right now, as I've said in some of our board meetings, we've got the eyes of the world on us because of the major manufacturing facility investment that's coming in the Mount Pleasant area. Right. And so we are very proud of the academy structure that we're implementing within our district, which is, again, focused on things that you see here. I've been out to the Technical Institute here. We have one of our schools is just down the street. We send 2 class loads. Next year it'll be 4 until we get the entire school going back and forth with engineering-related classes that are taught here and then back to the others. Say it's enough. I think there has to be more focus on how are we spending that money. We get upwards of 70% of our budget from state aid, and one of the things that I always look at is I don't know if there's a focus enough on is that money being spent in a way to produce the results to get our kids in position for these jobs or not.
The Voucher the Choice program started out in Milwaukee, Racine, now statewide. 2 questions. Has the voucher program been positive for your area, and should it be expanded statewide?
Okay, so I get this question a lot because I serve on the board. If you go back and take a look at when I ran for the board, I said from the start, I'm a parent. I want choices to educate my kids. And so what I look at is that that's another program that we have in the state that offers parents another choice for education for their kids. And so I deal with the state law as it comes down. Should it be expanded? Should it not? I go back again to say what results are we getting, whether I put my child in a public school, whether I put it in a voucher program, whether it's some hybrid between that. Virtual programs are becoming extremely more popular now that are provided by a plethora of different vendors. So I look at, do we have the right controls in place, and are we demanding the results so our kids are prepared to enter the workforce now? And so I myself believe that competition within education helps the children of the community, and that's where I would say as long as the safeguards are in place to ensure the taxpayers are getting their what they're investing, I don't have problems with those programs, and would like to contribute to the discussion on how we shape policy for that.
On your campaign website, maybe your Facebook campaign website, you call the Foxconn investment tremendous.
Yes.
What potential changes would it mean for the 62nd district?
Well, the district is urban, suburban, and rural. Okay, so it takes slices of Racine, Wind Point, the major points: Racine, North Bay, Wind Point, Caledonia, out to Raymond in Norway. And so as I go around in the district, pieces are starting to touch all of those spots. First of all, I was lucky enough to participate in the groundbreaking ceremony, and I was extremely impressed by the technology and the manufacturing line that is out there for people to see that they will have. The campus is just an enormous investment. They promise three things: $10 billion investment, 13,000 jobs, wages of roughly $54,000 a year. How that cannot be an opportunity for this community to supply workers, to get our economy going at a greater point than it is now. And people forget the periphery things. For example, plumbers, carpenters, restaurants, different other service areas that will start to grow because we will have more people potentially settling in here. Impact on the 62nd district. So for example, the village of Caledonia is addressing an issue with their stone quarry now because of the materials that are required by the freeway construction and the campus that Foxconn is beginning now. Okay, and so you go out to Raymond. Raymond is looking at their I-94 corridor. How will that be developed? What things will be considered? There are more people looking to develop in those areas. And I've gone all the way out to Norway. I sat at the village board meeting, or attended the village board meeting on Monday, and they're already talking about expansion as far as residential. They've already got one subdivision that's going to start. They're looking at how do we manage that growth so that we don't lose, which is a beautiful community out there in Wind Lake. How do we not lose our character that way? They will look at the person that's elected to this district to be a resource and to understand the issues that the constituents face.
So the long-term benefits of Foxconn, there's no doubt in your mind, will outweigh the potential $4.5 billion in state and local tax and breaks and other incentives.
Well, and one of the things I guess I would point out is that those incentives aren't going to be realized unless the markers that were put into the law are attained. So unless the jobs that they commit to are done, unless the campus is developed the way it is, the taxpayers will not be providing those incentives along that course in time. And so I think that's why this area needs growth. Our state needs to have a thriving economy. And that's why I look at what we have in place now, and I'm a strong proponent of it. I come out of private industry, so I look at how we viewed investments and how we looked at things, and I would say that I would want to take this investment. It's going to do what? I've heard anywhere $18 per $1 of investment by the taxpayers. I think we need to move forward and see if we can attain that.
You've mentioned how integral and how important highways are to the Foxconn development area. There's an impasse, a gridlock in the Capitol over how we pay for our future highways and bridges. How would you pay for them?
How would I pay for it? Well, you bring up a very complicated issue, and the reason that it's complicated, and I address this all the time with the $300 million budget that we have over at the district. It's like the old game when you poured the sticks out and you had to remove one. You can't just pull one out and say, I've solved the problem. We can't overborrow so that we take and kick the can down the road and burden our future generations with the borrowing, and yet we can't overburden current taxpayers with a number of different fees and taxes and so on to pay for the infrastructure that we need. We also can't move all of our money into projects that are related to one specific development, so that all of our communities do not have the money that's needed for infrastructure. I took a look at what the Assembly proposed. I have a great respect for Mr. Koyenga, who, by the way, has a finance and accounting background like myself. He offered a number of different avenues to try to balance the load on taxpayers, because what the taxpayers need to understand also is that if I look to fund one source, I have to find a balancing agent in another if I want to keep a balanced budget. And again, those are things we address every month or every week, every day in the district. And so I liked some of the things that he offered to balance that, and that should be the beginning of discussion. And I don't think it's as simple as either we tax higher for it or we borrow higher for it. So I would be more looking at a number of different solutions to thread together to make sure that we offer the right avenue for our communities as well as our freeway
Will
projects.
those potential solutions include raising the gas tax, number one, and tolling, number two?
I don't think you can take anything off the table because I've seen the things that he did was to place the sales tax and reduce the gas tax. I've seen tolling. Tolling would be fine as long as we move the investment over into our communities. So in other words, if I pay for the freeway system through tolling, then I need to take what I've budgeted out of our state aid and move it over so that our villages and infrastructure outside of the freeway gets addressed. And I think someone's going to have to, as part of the assembly, you're going to have to evaluate those, and the people are going to elect you to make the best decision for them now and in the future.
Local governments have been living with levy limits for 12 years, since 2006.
Mm-hmm.
Some local government leaders say it hurts their ability to provide local services. Keep levy limits, dial them back, get rid of them.
Another issue, I think the levy limits were put into place so that we didn't overburden the local taxpayer. Okay, so with that, you are correct. As development comes into communities are concerned about how do I pay for police, fire, a number of other services I've got to provide. There are some things in the law that address that, but I think we need to make sure that we're listening to our local communities and take a look at whether you find other different ways to work with it. Would it mean a hard slash of those caps, or does it mean working with them incrementally? I think you still have to look at working with them because costs are rising, and I think that, you know, as a finance person, we always look at how do I make sure that I keep things in a gradual format so that I can pay for things that are there.
As a school board president, one of your greatest nightmares has been school shootings.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to change our gun laws?
I don't believe so. I believe, okay, so I'll take what we have been doing, okay? So I'm grateful for the work of we partner with the City of Racine Police Department. We have a deputy chief that's part of our organization structure that coordinates the safety right now primarily at our 3 high schools, expanding out to our other schools. We split the cost with the local, with our local police department, local community. He's been very proactive in the things that we need to do to try to mitigate those risks, because I'll never say that you can totally prevent them. I believe that it's not necessarily the gun laws that we have. We need to protect the Second Amendment rights for those taxpayers that are responsible gun owners. We need to enforce our laws with instances of gun violence, but I think one size fits all isn't going to go around the entire state. And we have a community policing plan that we believe is working very well, and that's how we've made our investments. And I'm part of a number of other associations where this discussion amongst other school districts has been very prevalent, and they do some things a little bit differently than we do. And I think allowing the local districts to work with law enforcement and mental health associations that are there, I think those go much longer than feeling good about just putting a law in place or thinking I've checked the box, because I think the entire community has to be vigilant to really stop these kinds of violent acts.
Healthcare in rural areas. In rural areas, you have older demographics, you have young people leaving, you have more and more healthcare being provided by either Medicaid or Medicare. Thoughts on how to continue and improve healthcare in rural areas?
I think Wisconsin has a good program in badger care, and I think that we need to continue to look at what we're offering through that and how that applies to that demographic in rural areas, and make sure that those people have the access that other urban areas can cover with different methods.
Does the state have a role in recruiting and retaining doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals? Is that a duty and obligation of state government?
That's a good question. I would say that I think we have to provide an environment to allow those top professionals to ply their trade, so to speak, or to deliver their service. And so I know that there has been legislation and there has been things done to curb some of frivolous malpractice suits and so on, to make operating here a much more, would I say, better place for them to offer their services. And I think that's how you attract them. And I think the state's role is to really give the playing field to allow these services to be provided to our constituents.
Is it time to legalize either recreational marijuana or medical marijuana?
I think that has to be looked at very closely. I know it's a popular subject right now.
Both? Medical and recreational?
Well, I believe recreational is a more popular subject. I believe that medical, there are purposes and more regulation to it. And I think that we have to, if that is of benefit to the constituents in our state, and we do it with the right programs, then maybe there should be a consideration. I mean, you take a look at the opioid problem we have now. I wouldn't want to introduce more programs that I would term our starter programs for other drug related problems that we may have. And so I think it's an issue that we shouldn't just take out of emotion, but there should be we should study how other states have done it, and then offer what's best for our constituents.
Last question. Primary August 14th. There's two of you in the primary.
Yes.
Do you want to highlight any differences between you and your primary opponent?
The only thing I would say is it would be my experience. I've got 30 plus years as a tax professional, finance and accounting. I'm living in the issues in the present. I've raised 4 children. I'll say 1 1/4 in high school now because I've just graduated one, and so I've got one that's got 2 years left. My elected office now has me deep into some of the issues you would face going forward with our constituents, building relationships with our local communities, building relationships with technical institutes like Gateway, and then seeing what it's taking to get the students that we have now into the workforce, working with small businesses. We do a lot with the RAMAC Association here in Racine, but I just think that experience right now, addressing those issues, gives me something I can contribute in Madison. And as I've heard from many people, no one ever is going to object to another person that's got a finance and accounting background taking on an assembly seat.
Thank you. Bob Wittke of Racine is a Republican candidate in the 67th Assembly District. The primary is August 14th. Bob, thanks for talking to WisconsinEye.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me out here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.